Well, my friends, welcome back. Thanks again for joining us. Cece, thanks for hanging out with us again this week.
Thanks for having me
Yeah,
again.
yeah. Week 3. We're now week 3 of our series through the 7 churches mentioned in the book of Revelation. This week, we're talking about the letter to the church in Pergamum.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to be looking at Revelation chapter 2. We're going to be looking at verses 12 through 17 is where we're going to be. And again, we're kind of following our similar pattern. These are real churches in real places, in the real world, right? So if we kind of throw up our map again, we're kind of working our way around Turkey. We're at Pergamum, which is kind of like the far northwestern portion of the area. And so Cece, once again, kind of help us kind of grab onto Pergamum as a city, help us to go back 2,000 years in history. What do we need to know?
Right. Well, Pergamum was similar. It was the second city in size behind Ephesus.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you think about, we talked about Ephesus and Smyrna. Well, Pergamum, they were all three of them kind of competing for the same thing. And they had Pergamum had the same issues culturally. They were dealing with politics, emperor worship. They were dealing with religion. So polytheism, right? And they were dealing with culture as well. One of the big things here that's confusing about the text, and it's a little scary, is that Jesus says that this location, imagine Jesus telling you that this is where you live. Yeah. Okay. You are living at the site of Satan's throne.
Yeah. Verse 13, I know where you live, where Satan has his throne.
Yes. All this idol worship, like the imperial cult and the gods, that's why Pergamum is called that. And there, in this church as well, there was some persecution going on of the Christian people. There was a believer named Antipas. Antipas.
Yep.
And he was killed there for his faith. Jesus himself shares his own title with Antipas. He calls him his faithful witness. So that's going to set us up for the rest of the letter.
And that term faithful witness is an interesting one. It starts to get associated in Christian history with martyrdom.
Oh, I did not know that actually.
So like if you're staying faithful to witnessing to Jesus all the way to the very end. It's a test of the ultimate test of your faith.
Okay, I love that. I learned something new today.
Yeah. Right. But the other this next idea may not jive with what you have already said. Okay. But it absolutely does, because we're painting a picture, same story, conflict of loyalty, but in Pergamum, it was actually very attractive to kind of just join in the culture. It was like there was an allure to
belonging, fitting in.
Hey, you can kind of believe whatever. Just don't believe the things that are weird for everybody else.
Sure. Don't make anybody uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, really.
Exactly right. And so here's what I think what's going on in Pergamum. It's a little bit of like the double-edged sword of religious pluralism. Okay. And so here's what religious pluralism is. Pluralism, on the one side, is good in the sense of, we're not going to force you to believe one particular thing.
Right. Tolerance. We're going to tolerate things,
But if you choose that one thing, we're against you.
Okay.
So in our culture today, it's a little bit like, hey, believe whatever you want as long as you don't force me to believe, or as long as you don't try to persuade me to believe something different.
True. That's a big one.
That's a huge one.
I think what that kind of looks like too is like, actually we can talk about that later, but what it looks like is simply when you are a new Christian and you're trying to talk to your family about it, right? And it's just a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Well, a little bit. We can get there, but if we go back to Pergamum, there's all kinds of temples to all different gods. Christianity being one of them.
Sure.
Sure. So as long as you don't like impose, and as long as you kind of share the same values everybody else shares, don't make me feel bad about what I believe. Don't make me feel bad about how I'm living. Don't. You do you.
Yeah.
But don't you dare impose in any kind of way what you believe on me.
Got it.
That's what's really going. And if you do, there's actually severe consequences, and that's where some of these punishments that were, more ancient than they were modern, but come in. And so when he says there's the throne of Satan, there's all kinds of pagan gods
Sure.
and temples to pagan gods.
Right.
It's the seat of some of that stuff
Right.
in the ancient world.
Right.
And so everybody just went like, yeah, it's just part of
all
what it
good.
means to live here. You might be a Zeus person or an Artemis person or an Athena person or a Jesus person or a Old Testament God, but you might be, it doesn't matter.
Right.
As long as you don't,
Yeah.
push yours on me.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And there were people like Antipas who said, Jesus is the way.
Yeah.
And it really kind of the ultimate cost of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anything else about the church or the city of Pergamum, the historical context of Pergamum that you want us to know before we kind of move a little bit into some exegesis here?
No, not really. I mean, pretty much we've covered it. Again, culturally, it was similar to Ephesus and Smyrna. So definitely, go back to that.
So you've set us up. Antipas is this faithful witness.
Right.
John is commending people being faithful to Jesus, even in a pluralistic society, even when that's kind of costly. We move to verse 14 here, and he says this: nevertheless, even though you're that way, okay.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, I have a few things against you. There are some among you who hold to the teaching of Balaam, who taught Balak to entice the Israelites to sin, so they ate food sacrificed to idols and committed sexual immorality. Can you help us grab onto that?
I can. So right before that, Jesus says that they were strong in the name of Christ. So they were like, we are Jesus followers.
Yes.
Like there was no way around that. What the problem was is they were kind of following some different teachings that were allowing them to blend into culture. The whole loophole living thing.
I can believe in Jesus and then also do
some things
that Jesus doesn't like.
Yeah, and it's okay because grace covers it all. Right? So that's where they were at. And Balaam is interesting because there's a story about a donkey in like Numbers 22. And so when Jesus corrects them and throws out the name Balaam, to us that doesn't mean anything, but to them it meant a lot. He was a false teacher. So he was basically teaching that you could do these different things and that you were going to be okay.
The story is Balak, who is a Moabite king, is trying to undermine the nation of Israel.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so he hires Balaam, who's this prophet.
I love this.
Right.
Yes.
And he goes, hey, help me. Why don't you prophesy against these people of Israel? And Balaam can't. God doesn't allow him.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually Balaam gives Balak the idea that if you really want to undermine them, just send the women over there.
Yeah.
And then send some of your kind of ways of worship over there. Yeah. And eventually they'll embrace that and they'll stop following God.
Exactly.
Or they will try to feel like they still are following God while doing things that God says don't do.
It's like believing a lie. It's a little bit like deceptive. It's kind of like everything has a seed of truth in it, right?
It's almost as though I can still be married and sleep around as long as, everybody's okay with it.
Exactly.
But you're living in such a way that's going to undermine the relationship.
Right.
And that's what's happening in this story, right? He also says, likewise, you in verse 15, you have those who hold to the teaching of the Nicolaitans.
Yes.
And this comes up a couple of times.
That one's kind of interesting because do you remember when we did the study on the book of Galatians and we said...
I do remember that.
You remember that. It was a great study. Loved it. But
thank you.
Think about this. Like we said, the gospel does not add anything.
That's right.
Okay. So some of the teachings that the Nicolaitans were teaching were, well, hey, we're going to hold on to what Paul said. Like the whole meal thing, this meal thing was a big deal because I think back in the day, Paul had said something about they even went to they had a big powwow about it. And they were saying at the end of the day, they said, hey, you know what? If your heart behind everything is God, who cares about the food you put in your mouth?
Yep.
Right? Whether it was worship or whether it was sacrifice to a pagan god or whatnot. If the intention of your heart is truly I'm following Jesus, then it's okay. But if that's not the intention, you might be deceiving some of the Gentile believers to think that that's okay.
Yes.
So there's a motivation, I think was the whole purpose. But Nicolaitans were trying to tell the Christians hey, Paul said it. You can partake in that stuff and you're good to go.
Right.
So they were being deceived in thinking that this was an okay thing to do, that Jesus said it was okay.
You nailed it. Like the term to describe that is accommodation,
Accommodation.
right?
Okay. Yeah.
And so the story in the ancient world in some of these churches is there was food sacrificed to idols.
Right.
And then that food that was sacrificed to in these pagan worship services would then be sold
Yeah.
in the market.
Okay. Yeah.
And then there were wrestles over whether or not as a Christian you could buy that food.
Got
Is
it.
that food
Yeah.
spiritually tainted in some way?
Right.
And Paul's saying like, no,
No,
it doesn't matter,
that doesn't make
which
sense.
is different than
Yeah.
actually going to the temple and participating and offering this sacrifice, this food
To the God.
sacrifice to a and then acting like that's okay
Right.
when that's
It's
not,
not, because
right?
it's the
So
motivation of your
it's the
heart.
motivation of your heart.
Yep. It
Yep.
always goes back to the
So
heart.
the Nicolaitans, and that's we don't know a lot about them, but you're
Yeah.
exactly right. They were saying, don't worry about all of these other things, just accommodate them into your faith.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was food sacrificed to idols or sexual immorality, what they were essentially presenting was though, you can believe in Jesus, follow Jesus, be in right standing with God, and do all of these things and be just fine.
Mm-hmm. We're good to go.
And
Yeah.
Jesus is saying, no,
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
no, you're not. Which is why he says, repent therefore, otherwise I will soon, in verse 16, I'll soon come to you and I will fight against them with the sword of my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's metaphorical. Jesus does not have a literal sword in his mouth. That'd be
Mm-hmm.
super weird. But Cece, can you help us kind of understand
I
what's going on
can.
there?
And again, I want to take you back to the first verse as well, because again, no
You got it.
coincidences here. Jesus describes himself as being the one, these words are the one of who has the sharp double-edged sword. Okay. So again, these words are painting pictures in the original hearers' minds. And so they're thinking the sword of Caesar, which decapitates and kills
Sure.
if they don't partake, or the sword of culture.
Yep.
If we're talking in context about belonging,
Yep.
let's talk about the sword of culture. If you
Yep.
don't
Culture can
participate.
ostracise you, punish
Yes,
you,
so it's a
inflict
belonging thing. So
different
it's
kinds of
not
harm
just
on you.
persecution, like you're being hurt, but it's really sometimes
Got
too,
it.
it's not just the financial hurt. I mean, don't we all want to belong?
Yes.
Right? Like that's one of my biggest desires. I just want to know I belong somewhere.
Yeah.
I can know I belong to Jesus, but like I want to also walk out into the world and feel like I belong with
And
people.
every single decade, almost, culture seems to switch up.
Okay, yeah.
What are the terms of belonging,
Belonging.
right?
Right.
And so those winds shift.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they'll blow with us as followers of
And
Jesus,
sometimes not.
but most often they'll blow against us.
Exactly. So, that's a danger here. So when Jesus talks about the sword,
Yep.
um, he's really talking about cutting away compromise,
Sure.
with his word. I think of it simply as like knowing his word. Like the more you put
That's
Jesus's
exactly right.
words in your heart, like
Yes.
the more you're studying, being around
Yeah.
church. Like
Yep.
I always tell people, hey, like if there's one thing you can do, just show up.
Yeah.
Because each week you'll get something. You'll
Yes.
get one word
Yep.
from Jesus in your heart to carry you through the
Yep.
rest of the week. And then during the week, it's putting the word into you so that it can cut away the compromise. Like when you are a little unsure as to whether you should or you should not, I promise you, if you turn to the word, Jesus knows what you need.
Yep.
He does. He knows what you're thinking about
Yes.
compromising. He knows the people that he's put around
Yes.
you, maybe to test you, maybe for you
Yes.
to be a shining light to them, whatever the reason is, he
Yes.
knows. But sometimes as humans, I don't know what to do.
Yep.
But when we put his word in our hearts, it cuts away it makes our decisions
Nailed
easier,
it.
truthfully.
Nailed it. Yeah. And the metaphor that the New Testament uses to describe the word of God
Mhm.
is a double-edged sword.
Right?
It divides soul from spirit,
Mhm.
which is like the same thing.
Yeah.
Joint from marrow, which is like the same thing,
Yes.
But it's the word, it's Jesus's words, it's the truth.
Exactly.
And something that we need to hold
Exactly.
sometimes over and against this push to be
Mhm.
accommodating.
And it makes you stronger.
Yeah.
That's the thing,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
does.
Good. Well, my friends, again, we've given you quite a bit to kind of wrestle through here before we go into a group. Just one word, and we'll come back and reinforce this. Okay. One of the things I love about our church. Okay, and your story, you shared your story a couple weeks ago. Whether you grew up in church and agree with all the things we agree with or not, we're a place where you can kind of wrestle with that.
Right.
And so listen. If you're wrestling right now, it's a safe place to do that.
Mhm.
Okay, we're going to stand really clearly on what Jesus says, okay? But you are welcome as you're processing that along with us. Hope you have a good discussion. We'll see you in a little bit. We've learned some lessons from the previous churches that are probably really relevant for us to be reminded to. I think of CC, go back to Ephesus, right?
Mhm.
Sound doctrine is important, holy living is important, but let's not forget love is the most important thing,
Right.
right? What we get in Pergamum here is almost the corrective on the other side. A lot of times, and this has been a dominant message in the culture we live in today. We'll use the word love in a way more
Mm.
accommodating than truthful way.
Sure.
So it's loving to just let people do whatever they want to do.
Right.
It's loving to let people live however they want to live. When I say let, I don't mean, we should force people to live differently, but it's almost seen as loving to not share truth,
Right.
things that we hold to be true. If I genuinely believe that there's something that you're doing that's going to be harmful to you,
Right.
if I genuinely believe that you're living in such a way that's going to take you further and further away from what God has for you and what God wants for you,
Mhm.
then it's the most loving thing for me to lovingly say to you, hey,
Mhm.
don't live in that way. I'm worried about you living in that way. And these are some of the hardest conversations I think we have to have,
Mhm.
both with one another as followers of Jesus, but certainly
Right.
when it comes to how we share Jesus with people who don't know him yet.
Absolutely. And I think going back to love in Ephesus, I think the biggest thing is I always tell my kids this. If you want to share truth with people,
Yeah,
right, which we've said it's important, if you love them, you need to share truth.
right.
You first have to have permission. And when I say you have to have permission, it means that you have to have built a relationship
They got to know
up
that
with
you
them.
care about them.
Yes, I mean, you coming in, like, and ask for advice is criticism. I've always, kind of held true to that.
Yep,
I don't always follow it, but like
yep,
it's in the
yep,
back of my head,
yep.
because I care about people. But then now, as I've gotten older, I've started asking myself, do I have permission to share this truth with XYZ, with this person, right?
Yeah,
Even though I lovingly want to tell them all the things that I think they could do better for them to
yeah.
make them better, if I don't have permission to share that, I might just have to, maybe I'm supposed to lovingly just walk alongside that person and pray that eventually
It's
I'll
good.
be able to speak truth into
It's
them.
good. It's good.
Right? I mean,
Yep.
is that what we're talking about?
Absolutely
Okay.
right. Yeah. Here's how we're gonna end. In verse 17. Uh, this first of all, I mean, like you just captured it beautifully. It's a really hard,
It's a
it's
huge
a
tension.
complex thing to do to
Yes.
live out. Jesus
Yes.
says, as you do this, okay, to the one who's victorious, I will give some of the hidden manna,
Yeah.
and I will also give that person a white stone with a new name,
Yes.
not only to one who receives it. The manna one we can probably clearly interpret that. That's a story from the Old Testament where
Right.
God just protects and preserves. He
Yeah.
provides.
He
So we
provides.
know as you with this tension out, Jesus
Yes.
gonna he's gonna take care of you. And then a white stone. We don't know. We don't know what that means.
No.
There's interpretive
Couple
options, and you
things.
probably selected yours, and I've
Yeah.
selected mine.
It's all good.
Here's what we know.
Yeah.
Here's what we know. Jesus is watchful and present and near with us,
He loves us. He
to
cares
us,
about us.
as we're navigating
Mhm.
these things. We don't do it
Right.
alone. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Anyways, thank you guys once again for joining us this week. Week 3, we're going to move into week 4. That comes after week 3. Next week, about halfway through our journey through the 7 churches. Looking forward to you guys continuing along.